Stepmom told me I'm just a guest and claimed our car for her golden child's luxury education. Dad backed her, so I packed her bags for a very long trip and kept the keys. Hey Reddit, I, 19 male, will call myself Caleb, and my family could probably win awards for dysfunctional event planning. Quick rundown. My dad remarried a woman named Vanessa, who thinks family means her, my dad, and my half-sibling Sloan, 10 female. Me and my younger sibling Cole, 17 male, we're apparently overflow. Dad actually took my house key and told me I'm just a guest now. Vanessa labels pantry bins with "do not touch," like we're living in a museum. Our mom isn't in the day-to-day. She moved a couple hours away after the divorce for work, and we aged out of the week-on/week-off shuffle. Once high school hit, buses, practices, and jobs made Dad's address the default. She calls, sends care package snacks, and shows up when she can. She won't step into Vanessa's Facebook courtroom. No feud, no heroics, just geography, tight money, and a calendar that hates us. What follows is the whole saga. Not gonna make this intro so long. Here's my story. Dad didn't just take my house key. He staged it like he was the grandmaster of some club. He stood in the doorway, palm out, and waited until I dropped the key into his hand. Then he slid it into a tiny velvet pouch like he was locking away pirate gold. He goes, "Caleb, you're 19 now. This house isn't a crash pad. You need to respect the place when you're here." Respect. That's the word he chose. Respect isn't a word you tell for someone who fixes the Wi-Fi, drives the kid to practice, and does yard work. But sure, I'll show you respect. He added, "You need to help." Translation: mow the lawn, carry groceries, but don't expect a plate of dessert. Vanessa didn't wait for the echo. She stepped in like she'd been saving the line for months and said, "You're just a guest in this house now, and Sloan needs her space here. That includes the fridge, the driveway, and the good Wi-Fi. Don't take things from Sloan's bins, don't park in the front spot, and return the gas card. Family expenses only." She pointed at the bottom shelf. "Overflow is where your stuff goes. Be helpful, not comfortable." After that, we spent more nights at Grandma's than under Dad's roof. Less guest, more quiet. Meanwhile, while we were at home during the day, Vanessa, the stepmom, was doing her thing in the kitchen. She had lined up clear plastic bins in the pantry and labeled them in neat block letters. 3 bins, top shelf, Sloan, do not touch, all caps, like a warning sign. She shifted the food Cole and I bought into a bin on the bottom shelf labeled Overflow. Overflow, as in, you can have it if Sloan doesn't want it. Vanessa said she was bringing order to the kitchen. Apparently order means labeling cookies like restricted items and pretending the rest of us live off fumes. She also put up a new fridge photo. It's from the Spring Festival. You know the type. Paper flower backdrop, cheesy smiles. Except it's cropped so tight, you'd think the photographer was allergic to teenage boys. It's just Vanessa, Dad, and Sloan. The rest of us got deleted. She called it her immediate family photo. Cole pulled sticky notes from the drawer, drew 2 cartoon faces, stuck them on the edge of the photo, and wrote, "Director's cut." We didn't say anything. You don't argue with scissors, you just make your own edits. We gave the key situation a proper send-off. Cole dug up an old shoebox, taped a paper cross on the lid, and we dropped the velvet pouch inside. We held a full driveway funeral for my key. Cole read a eulogy he wrote on a napkin over cereal. A neighbor stopped mid-walk to stare like we were hosting a cult ritual. Sloan peeked through the blinds and asked if we were serious. Dad told us to quit acting out. Vanessa asked if we'd clean it up. Obviously, we're not animals. After the ceremony, we took the beige Comet out for errands. The Comet is our car, 15 years old, permanently beige, and loud enough that you hear it before you see it. We didn't even make it out of the neighborhood before one of the hubcaps took off across the grass. Cole chased it down, slammed it back into place, and gave the fender a slap like he'd just revived it. That's our maintenance plan. Works fine. Grocery run was predictable. Milk, rice, discount cereal that comes in bags bigger than our laundry. Protein bars only if they're under $2 each. We've got price per ounce math down better than half the adults at the store. At checkout, the cashier asked if our parents had a store account. We said yes, but we don't use it anymore. Last time we did, Vanessa called it budget creep and told us to request items through the family chat 2 weeks in advance so she could allocate. We tried once. Result, only Sloan's yogurt made it to the cart. 2 flavors because variety is important. Nothing for us. That was the end of that. Now we pay out of pocket. Back at the house, Vanessa had taped a cone at the top of the driveway with a laminated sign, reserved for school events. Sounds neutral, but school events only ever mean Sloane's things. Cole parked the Comet on the curb without a word. System acknowledged. We checked the fridge. The dessert upgrade tally was still taped up. Started as a joke, now it's basically the family scoreboard. Every time Sloane gets an extra treat, we slash a line in her column. Our column only gets marks if Cole steals one fry and forces me to count it. Dinner that night. 3 plates of chicken and rice, 1 plate with chicken, rice, and a lava cake. Sloane asked for sprinkles. Vanessa said fuel is important for kids. Dad nodded. Cole calmly added another slash to the tally. Numbers don't lie. After dinner, Dad came in with his big announcement voice. Quick update, he said, like he was briefing a boardroom. Donor seating at Friday's fundraiser is family only. We need to look sharp. You boys can help set up, then grab seats along the wall. So we're ushers now. He added that Vanessa was handling photos because she has a good eye, and she'd also be taking care of booster funds while the treasurer was away. It'll run smooth, he said. Yeah, nothing shady about putting the money and the photo ops in the same person's hands. I asked if receipts were being co-signed. He told me not to worry about adult processes. Got it. We'll keep worrying about folding chairs. The athletic director greenlit her as temporary cardholder while the treasurer's on leave, with Dad co-signing as sponsor. Policy says 2 adults, 1 admin, 1 parent. They waived the second parent co-sign for speed. Email thread exists. The form got signed between raffle drawings. Great system. What could go wrong? Cole's good at filing things like this. Literal files. He's got receipts, screenshots, notes. He's turned it into a hobby. He once labeled a receipt Exhibit A just for fun. This whole setup was Exhibit B. Later, Vanessa was running through her mini adventure for Sloane. Trail walk, cafe stop, then picking up decorations for the fundraiser tables. She handed us a pastel-colored checklist of chores to do while they were gone. Wash the SUV, organize the garage, carry bins to the attic. We didn't point out we'd already done half of that last week. We just did the list. Compliance is faster than conversation. It keeps Sloane out of crossfire, keeps Vanessa from weaponizing disrespect, and keeps us in keys, sockets, and quiet. Compliance beats confrontation and screenshots. The Comet decided to join the comedy by flashing the check engine light. Our glove box scanner said evap leak. Translation, gas cap again. Cole tightened it until it squeaked. Light stayed on. Whatever. We reset it. If it comes back, we'll grab a clamp from the garage. Not our first rodeo. At pickup the next day, Coach leaned into the window while Sloane crossed the lot. He thanked us for being around for her and casually dropped that Vanessa was managing booster funds now. He said, "Hope everything runs clean." We both knew what that meant. We nodded. Noted. Coach offered months ago. Keep grades up, keep showing up, rides, setup, clean up, and he'd write it. He sees who stacks chairs, and he knows the committee chair. When the hot mic hit, his email basically sent itself. At home, glossy boxes sat on the porch. Vanessa cut them open with a decorative key-shaped opener and pulled out fancy jars and folded card holders. Centerpieces, she said. Dad said donors like details. Cole texted me one word, receipts. I texted back, logged. Dinner ended with Sloane getting the extra again. Tally updated. Afterward, Dad reminded us about fundraiser night. Button-downs, neutral shoes, donor table for family, wall seats for us. Vanessa would handle the photo list. Step in if someone asks for help, he said, like we were staff at a banquet hall. I said okay. He said thanks for the attitude. We're always polite. Before bed, I snapped photos of the tally, the pantry labels, and the shoebox coffin for the key. I screenshotted the family chat where Dad said we'd sit along the wall. I wrote down the booster brand name from the boxes Vanessa opened, not because I planned to post it anywhere, but because records matter. When your family runs on adult processes, you keep your own file. That's survival. Fundraiser night at the school is basically the Super Bowl for people who love clipboards. The gym is packed with folding tables covered in white cloths, Vanessa's elevated centerpieces, and parents who treat raffle tickets like insider trading. Dad looked like he was prepping for a State of the Union. He herded us toward the back while he and Vanessa strutted to the donor table like VIPs. He tossed over his shoulder. Stay sharp, boys. If you see chairs unstacked, grab them. Good to know our role. Unpaid interns. Sloane was in full sparkle mode. Hair curled, glitter shoes, dress that looked like it had been ironed by a professional. She spotted us and waved, then bolted up the stage stairs during the thank you speeches. She grabbed the mic before anyone could stop her and said, "Thanks to my brothers Caleb and Cole for always being here." Whole room turned to look at us. I gave a two-finger salute. Cole bowed like a magician. Vanessa immediately started flailing at the sound guy, like she was directing planes on a runway. Dad put a hand out like he was security, as if he could shut down a 10-year-old giving thanks. Too late. The applause had already happened. When we got home, the first grenade landed. School's Facebook page uploaded the family photo. Vanessa had the event page login that night. She uploaded from her phone between speeches. The thumbnail crop gives it away. Convenient. Same paper flower backdrop, but, surprise, we'd been cropped out. Again. The comments lit up with, "Beautiful family," and "What a sweet picture," like we'd never existed. Vanessa probably hit upload with a smile. Cole didn't say a word. He just went into the garage, came back with cardboard, scissors, and a Sharpie. He cut out two big ovals, drew our faces on, and taped them to the fridge next to the cropped photo. He wrote "Uncropped Edition." Then we snapped a picture and posted it to our group chat with the caption, "Director's Cut available now." That was our entire statement. Comedy, not complaints. 2 days later, I got an email about my internship. The dates shifted from summer to fall, which meant our annual brothers trip, usually July, was now moving to October. I texted Cole the update. He texted back, "Fall foliage or bust." We were already looking at maps of Maine. 10 minutes later, Dad sent a group text, "Perfect. Since you're going in the fall, you can take Sloan with you." No question mark, just you can take. Just. Like we were running a daycare road trip program. I told him no, straight. We're not dragging a 10-year-old across state lines when we're not allowed to tell her no about anything. If Vanessa's rule is that only she disciplines her kid, then Vanessa can buy the plane ticket. Dad came back with, "She's family." Yeah, so are we. Apparently with wall seats and empty bins. Vanessa followed it up with one of her vague Facebook posts. Sad when children are excluded by those who should care most. 10 minutes later, her cousin from 3 states away was commenting, "Heartbreaking." Right. Heartbreaking that we don't want to babysit when we're finally taking 1 week for ourselves. We also weren't hauling a 10-year-old across state lines without notarized consent, medical authorization, and pickup confirmations we were never getting. Liability, school attendance, and bathroom breaks alone turn a foliage run into a custody seminar. That night, Coach pulled Dad aside after practice. We were close enough to hear. He said, "Jason, you know fairness matters to the team. The older boys are here every game, every practice. Don't sideline them." Dad nodded like he was hearing brand new wisdom. He said, "Of course, Coach. We're all family." Then he went home and repeated the same demand that we take Sloan on the trip. He didn't even bother to change the wording. So we laid it out for him. I told him, not happening. We're not taking someone we can't discipline, who throws a fit every time the attention meter isn't maxed. That's a recipe for disaster. Cole chimed in. We'd need a tour bus and a live-in therapist. Hard pass. Dad didn't laugh. He just said, "You'll regret pushing your sister away." Sister? First time he'd called her that in weeks. He usually calls her our little one, like she's a mascot. Meanwhile, Vanessa doubled down online. Her vague posts kept rolling. Some people can't see past their own selfishness. Imagine denying a child joy. In all with artsy stock photo backgrounds of sunsets. Her friends ate it up. They sent her "Stay strong," Mama replies, while conveniently forgetting the 3 kids she crops out of every picture. Cole and I decided not to fight her posts. We went with visuals. He taped our cardboard uncropped faces to the inside of the fridge door, so that every time anyone opened it, we were staring back. We also started tallying her vague posts on a piece of paper next to the dessert upgrade tally. Post number 1, when adults fail, children suffer. /mark. Post number 2, grace is free but some people can't give it. /mark. The scoreboard was filling up nicely. By midweek, even Grandma caught wind. She called to check if we were okay. I told her about the trip demand and the cropping stunt. She just said, "Your grandfather always said the truth doesn't need to shout," which is Grandma speak for document everything and wait. That's her version of encouragement. She knows how this house runs. The pressure campaign kept going. Dad texted me the next morning. "This trip is a chance to bring everyone together." Cole took my phone, typed back, "Together means equal. Not happening." Sent done. Dad didn't reply. By the weekend, the house felt like a stage. Vanessa pacing with her phone, Dad pretending he wasn't in the middle, Sloan asking when the fall trip was happening, because apparently she'd already been promised. We didn't blame her. She's a kid. She just repeats what she hears. But when Dad told her, "The boys are thinking about it," we both snapped. I said, "No, the boys decided. It's not happening." Cole added, "Maybe next year when rules apply to everyone." Sloan didn't get it. Dad looked at us like we'd just committed treason. Vanessa stormed upstairs, probably to draft her next sunset post. So here we are, cropped out of photos, cropped out of dessert, cropped out of the donor table, and now being guilt-tripped for not volunteering as camp counselors on our own vacation. The difference this time? We're not explaining. We're not apologizing. The trip is ours. The receipts are piling up, and when this blows up, and it will, there'll be no misunderstanding. The scoreboard is already public. The storm hit on a Tuesday night, right after Vanessa spent the evening lecturing Sloan about how her special thanks on stage at the fundraiser had embarrassed her. Yeah, apparently thanking your brothers is a scandal if it doesn't fit the family brand. Vanessa went on about optics and narrative control like she was running a political campaign. Sloan sat there chewing her sleeve. Then, 10 minutes later, she grabbed her bike and bolted out the door into a downpour. Cole looked up from the couch and said, "Did she just—" "Yep, she did." Dad asked where she was going. Vanessa said, "She needs space." Space? In a thunderstorm? Great parenting strategy. Send the 10-year-old into lightning therapy. We didn't wait for a vote. We grabbed our jackets and went out. I shot Dad a text. "We've got her," checking the high school awning, sharing location. So the timestamp lived on both phones and dropped it in the family chat too. I flipped on Find My for Sloan's iPad from the car. Paper trail first, rescue second, sirens never. The rain was hammering down hard enough that the Comet was basically hydroplaning while parked. We knew her go-to hideouts though. She has two. The swing set at the elementary school and the awning at the high school entrance. First spot was empty, so we headed to the second. There she was, bike tipped over, sitting on the concrete steps like she was auditioning for a sad music video. Cole killed the flashlight and tossed me the thermos he'd filled earlier. Hot chocolate, marshmallows, green bag, the ones she actually likes. He handed it to her, said, "Sip it, don't inhale it." She took it without looking up. I leaned against the door, said, "Rain therapy working out?" She muttered something about being bad. That word had Vanessa written all over it. Kid thinks she's bad because she thanked us on a microphone. We loaded her and the bike into the Comet. She sat in the back clutching the thermos. Cole drove slow because the wipers squeaked like they were powered by rubber bands. Halfway home, a police cruiser passed us, slowed down, and shined the spotlight inside. Officer leaned out. "Everything all right?" Cole said, "Storm rescue, bringing our sister back." The guy nodded, said, "Drive safe," and pulled off. Quick pause, fellas. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Thanks so much for your support. All right, back to the drama. If Vanessa had called in a missing child, that would have been fun to explain. Back at the house, Dad opened the door and immediately started in. You can't just escalate her anxiety like this. She needed time alone. Right, because 10-year-olds wandering in a thunderstorm with metal bikes need privacy. Vanessa added, "You're undermining me." We didn't answer. We just rolled the bike into the garage and parked the Comet. Dad muttered something about, "Next time I'll get my buddy from the department involved." Logged. Exhibit C, threat of police over kids rescuing kids. He never called. A patrol car rolled by, spotlighted the Comet, saw Sloan buckled with Coco, and moved on. With a welfare check in the CAD and our texts time-stamped, there wasn't a missing case to inflate into drama. Sunday rolled around and Grandma decided to stir the pot. Church, front pew, center section. She waved us up to sit next to her. Vanessa tried to shuffle us to the side rows. Grandma said, "They're family. They sit with me." End of discussion. Vanessa sat down 2 rows back, probably plotting her next vague post. Dad sat stiff like he'd been sentenced to church jail. Sloan sat between us, humming along with the hymns. Small win. Vanessa wasn't done. Monday, she filed an HOA complaint against Grandma and Grandpa's yard. Something about improper storage of tools. Basically, Grandpa left a rake leaning on the shed. The HOA called a hearing. Cole showed up with a binder labeled Exhibits A, Y. He had photos, measurements, and a copy of the HOA's own rules printed out. He pointed out at least 6 other houses with the exact same rake situation. Board dismissed it in 5 minutes. Vanessa stormed out, heels clacking. Cole wrote HOA victory on our scoreboard when we got home. The Comet decided to join the drama that week, too. Died in the middle of a downpour while we were hauling scrap wood for Grandpa. Wouldn't start. We ended up dragging a tarp over it, then borrowing the neighbor's yard tractor to push it back to the driveway. Looked like a clown parade. 2 teenagers, a tarp, and a tractor hauling a sedan. But it worked. Cole hit the ignition after drying the distributor cap, and the comet coughed back to life. Beige, indestructible, and angry, just like us. Meanwhile, receipts started stacking up. Sloan whispered to me one night that Vanessa had used the Booster Club card to buy fancy jars and ribbon for the fundraiser tables. She even repeated Vanessa's phrase, brand alignment. That's not snacks for kids. That's candle shop nonsense, which explained the glossy boxes we'd seen. Coach confirmed it later. He pulled me aside after practice and said he couldn't find receipts for half the decorations. I just shrugged. Not my budget, but in my pocket, a photo of those glossy boxes with the brand logo clear as day. The Booster Club meeting wasn't supposed to be a main event. It's usually 30 parents arguing over who brings snacks and whether jerseys should be navy or heritage blue. This time, though, the room looked like it was hosting closing arguments for a trial. Folding chairs full, side tables stacked with paperwork, and Vanessa at the front with her laptop and a slideshow that had way too many transitions. Dad was standing near the head of the table like he was about to announce a merger. She opened with a PowerPoint slide that said, Community Image Matters. Stock handshake. Too many animations. Then she pitched brand cohesion and elevated donor experiences, pointing at jars and ribbons like glitter balances budgets. Next came the big move. To offer a better education, we must signal excellence, she said. I'm launching a luxury education initiative, boutique academies, leadership intensives, travel seminars. Hand over heart. To lead by example, we'll donate the proceeds from my car, the Comet, to seed the fund. The room went quiet. Our neighbor said what everyone thought. The beige one with the taped mirror? That's the boy's car. Vanessa didn't blink. It's my vehicle, our household asset, and it's time it served a higher purpose. We'll auction it at the silent auction and earmark the money for luxury education. A parent asked, So, a scholarship anyone can apply for? Curated, not generic, she said, eyeing Sloane's row. I've sourced partner academies, uniforms, arts residencies, leadership retreats. The athletic director stepped in. We don't auction cars at school events. Liability, taxes, title. Also, booster funds must benefit programs, not one kid. The AD raised a hand like he was taking attendance. Who's actually on the Comet's title? Vanessa said, Our household. He blinked. That's not a legal owner. Coach chimed in, It's the boys' ride. Their mom bought it. The AD nodded. Then the school isn't touching it. We don't move vehicles we don't own, and we don't run private car auctions. If someone wants to donate a car, they go through the district's vendor program with the registered owner's signed title. This isn't that. Vanessa tried household asset again. The AD shook his head and moved the agenda along. Vanessa smiled. Then we structure a donor-advised flow for a standout student. I'll serve as media lead. Coach, kids are still sharing last season's socks. She waved it off. Basics can be rebranded. Socks are culture signals to legacy donors. A track mom asked about the jar and ribbon receipts. Vanessa, in reconciliation. The AD, we need all receipts by Friday. Dad turned up the volume. We're losing focus. This is about morale. Vanessa's donating her car for our kids' future. Right. Morale by selling our ride to buy a brochure. Then the podium mic stayed hot. Vanessa, under her breath but loud enough. Equal isn't fair. Sloan has different needs. We must elevate excellence. Half the room froze. Our neighbor again. So my kid doesn't get socks because he's not your different needs? Vanessa tried to pivot. It's about opportunity. Some homes can steward advanced pathways. Others participate in community offerings. Coach, community offerings like public school. The room tilted. Whispers started. The AD repeated, receipts. Friday. Then my double booking. Same day. My scholarship interview downtown and Sloane's showcase at school. Dad told me to skip the interview for family. I told him I'm not throwing away free tuition for optics. Cole said, I'll cover Sloane. She'll be fine. I sat in a conference room answering questions while my phone buzzed like it owed Vanessa rent. Cole texted play-by-play from the front row. She nailed the solo. Crowd clapped. Vanessa glaring. She saw me, smiled. That's the scoreboard that matters. After the meeting, parents were already murmuring audits. Coach looked pained and satisfied at the same time. Vanessa stormed out, clutching her laptop. Dad followed, muttering ingratitude and disrespect. Sloane found Cole, fist-bumped, walked off happy. Back home, the fridge got a new sheet. Mic drops. Line 1, equal isn't fair. Line 2, skip scholarship. On wall space is tight. Material isn't. Grandma doesn't do speeches. She does stunts. If she ever got into politics, she'd win debates by just rolling out a prop table and dropping paperwork. That's basically what happened in her driveway on Saturday. We pulled up to find a folding table set up under the oak tree, complete with a pitcher of lemonade, a stack of DMV papers, and a giant bow taped to the hood of her old sedan. Bluebell. She called it that because the paint had faded from sky blue to bluish. She looked at us and said, "Boys, it's yours now. Titles signed, insurance transferred. It's on my account." Just like that. Grandma titled Bluebell to me and kept the insurance under her policy with Cole listed as a permitted minor driver. Registration at her address, inspection current, glove box stuffed with proof, keys for both of us, rules for all of us. Cole actually asked if she was serious. She handed him the keys, clinked them onto the table like chips in a poker game. Then she slid an envelope toward me. "Laptop fund," she said. Inside was enough to cover the machine I'd been eyeing for school. She wasn't done. Out came Grandpa's old toolbox. Heavy metal, initials engraved, drawers full of wrenches. She set it in front of Cole. "For your trade." That's when Vanessa stormed across the yard like we'd just stolen state secrets. She pointed at Grandma and yelled, "You're rewarding disobedience." Grandma didn't blink. She just said, "I'm rewarding work. They show up, they help, they're responsible. My car, my insurance, my choice. I never claim something that isn't mine. Unlike you." Vanessa's face went red enough to light the driveway. Dad tried to jump in with a compromised voice. "Mom, maybe we should talk this through." Grandma cut him off. "When you run one consistent rule in your house, you can lecture me. Until then, quiet." Silence. Dad actually sat down in a lawn chair. Vanessa made a grab for the keys like she was going to snatch them off the table. Grandma just raised her eyebrow. That was enough. I pocketed them before things got physical. Cole was already loading the toolbox into the Comet. Grandma poured lemonade like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in the family hierarchy. Meanwhile, the Booster Club fallout was spreading. Parents were sharing the clip from the meeting where Vanessa said, "Equal isn't fair." The cropped photo narrative? Dead. Everyone saw what was happening now. A few even DM'd us screenshots of her posts with captions like, "She's serious," and laughing emojis. For once, the crowd wasn't buying it. Coach group texted, "Booster huddle, office, now." 15 parents and one folding table later, he set the booster card down like evidence. The AD printed the bank log and set it down like evidence. Vanessa hugged her laptop. Dad said, "Witch hunt." A mom from basketball raised a hand. "Motion to audit and reassign if receipts don't land." A chorus of A's. Someone banged a plastic trophy like a gavel. Motion carried. Kids first, optics later. Scoreboard. Audit. / The AD has admin authority on the booster account. He called the bank's nonprofit line and slapped a hold on new charges pending receipts. Not canceled, paused. A memo hit the booster chat before anyone could say, "Optics." Card worked for refunds only. Failed attempts pinged the AD. He also flagged the Comet in the minutes as ineligible for auction. Private property, wrong process, end of story. When Vanessa tried to relitigate the car later, Grandma didn't look up from her coffee. My car. Legal transfer. Case closed. Cole spent that evening in the garage, reorganizing Grandpa's toolbox. He lined up the sockets, labeled drawers with tape, and actually fixed the squeaky hinge on Bluebell's trunk. I loaded my laptop fund money into an envelope and stuck it under my mattress. Dad came out, peeked into the garage, and asked Cole, "Paid trial at the shop still happening?" Cole said, "Yeah." Dad nodded. No speech. Just walked away. Progress. But in the laziest way possible. Donors were asking questions. The card was paused, and Grandma had just handed us a car with paperwork. Dad couldn't fix optics at school, so he tried fixing the rules at home. That night, Dad slid a typed fairness plan across the table. No more cropped photos, same desserts for all kids, equal discipline at shared events, no booting us from the family chat. Vanessa tried to pen in an asterisk, exceptions for unique circumstances, and Aunt Elise crossed it out without blinking. Dad signed. Vanessa didn't. The paper stayed on the counter like scripture. Dessert was the test. Vanessa set the brownie tray down like it might explode. Before she could assign the corner piece to Sloan, Grandma, who had just dropped by, said, "Let her lead." Sloan cut the pan into perfect equal squares and handed them out. Vanessa inhaled like she was about to object. Dad pointed to the plan. Objection overruled. Scoreboard updated. 10 minutes later, Dad re-added me to the family chat and posted the first uncropped photo in years. Me, Cole, and Sloan in the backyard. Comet and Bluebell behind us. Caption, Proud of all my kids. No hashtags, no crop. Posted raw. Grandma said we needed cooling time, and then sent me a link like a mission brief. Southwest Decor and Vendor Expo, Phoenix. Badges comped through a church event friend. Real trade show, real schedule, nothing glamorous. She told me and Cole, offer it as a thank you trip for all her work with school photos. We packaged it like a gift. Confirmation email, hotel on Grandma's points, flights booked with her miles. 2 layovers because free is still free. We texted the itinerary first. She replied, I'm in with 3 sparkle emojis, then tapped accept on the calendar invite and forwarded it to Dad. We pitched it at dinner. Vendors, brand partners, media panels, I said. Cole added, badge says booster media lead. Vanessa lit up like she'd been scouted by a label. She said she'd bring our brand deck. We printed the boarding pass and slid it across the table. She packed in 15 minutes. We drove her to the airport before lunch. She took a selfie with the lanyard and told Dad to hold the household standards. An hour later, my phone rang from her first layover. Where even is this? Terminal noise, gate change, classic. This says El Paso and my hotel email says Mesa. Why is this so far? Please, I want to get back. I told her the badge pickup closed at 6, and the comp room needed in-person ID. Also, the fare was non-refundable. She hung up and boarded. She spent the weekend in ballrooms full of foam blocks, bulk ribbon, and centerpiece catalogs. No influencer lounge, no VIP table. She texted a photo of a wholesale price sheet like it was contraband and wrote, so many options. Then a second text, this is very practical. Translation, not the movie in her head. While she was comparing jar lids, the booster card stayed paused, and the receipts due Friday memo sat in her inbox. Parents kept sharing the hot mic clip. The cropped photo narrative didn't survive the week. Dad grabbed her at arrivals. We stayed home and let the tote do the talking. She landed Sunday night dragging a tote that said, decor is a verb and a stack of catalogs thick enough to level a table. She tried to restart the argument about Bluebell and the keys. Grandma said, my car. Legal transfer. Vanessa switched to the fairness plan. Dad pointed at his signature. She stared at the brownie pan, realized equal pieces were still the rule, and went upstairs. On Monday, she called the expo valuable networking. On Tuesday, the AD emailed, receipts by Friday or treasurer reassign. On Wednesday, a refund hit the card from a ribbon vendor. On Thursday, she asked Dad if comping brand samples counted as receipts. He told her to ask the board. She didn't. By the time Friday rolled around, she had a folder of returns, 3 vendor cards, and a tote bag that kept falling over. The board logged the refunds, closed the hold, and reassigned treasurer duties to someone who actually likes forms. Vanessa posted a quote about learning seasons. Comments were off. Grandma called that night and asked if the house felt cooler. I said the thermostat was the same. She laughed and told us to pack. Dad stood in the doorway, looked at the plan, and didn't try to renegotiate anything. That was new. Monday morning was the start of our trip prep. Comet needed an oil check. Bluebell got a tire top-up. We made a supply run. Gas station snacks, cheap thermoses, and duct tape for whatever the Comet decided to break this time. Vanessa hovered in the doorway and tried one last guilt trip. Look at you going into trips and leaving your sister behind. Dad actually held up the signed fairness plan like it was scripture. He said, we agreed. She clamped her mouth shut. Scoreboard, boys 2, Vanessa 0. Sloane, to her credit, didn't throw a tantrum. She came out with a plate of brownies cut into perfect equal squares and shoved one in my hand, one in Cole's. She said, for the road. That's when you know the rules finally sank in. Not because Vanessa or Dad preached them, but because Sloane decided she could enforce them herself. The morning we left, Dad walked out holding a house key on a cheesy company keychain and a gas card. He dropped them into my palm and said, don't lock me out. Not quite an apology, but close enough to count. I clipped the ring. Comet, Bluebell, Grandma's place, and now Dad's. Heavy like a pocket-sized scoreboard. We weren't moving back in full time. Grandma was still home base. The key just meant no doorbell, no velvet pouch, no theater. As we loaded the trunk, my phone buzzed. Scholarship panel invite. Final round. Cole's phone buzzed right after. Paid trial confirmed for the shop. Back-to-back wins. We didn't celebrate. We just said logged and kept packing. Vanessa was watching from the window, arms crossed. Dad leaned out the front door and said, send me the playlist you guys always run on trips. Not be safe, not have fun. Playlist. Like he wanted in on the road without saying it. I sent the link. No commentary. Receipts were due Friday. We didn't stick around to watch the scramble. The card was already silent. We pulled out of the driveway. Comet in front, Bluebell behind, toolbox rattling in the trunk, thermoses in the cup holders, brownies in the back seat, scoreboard taped to the fridge back home, fairness plan taped right next to it, rules written down, photos uncropped, desserts equal, keys distributed.